Good evening, I'm Jonathan Higgins.
And I'm Rich Carlson.
And we are the Scanner Guys. Good evening and welcome to the broadcast. We're talking about squid tonight.
Yes, all about squid.
No, not really.
Are you?
Am I what?
Yeah, and I forgot to mute my tab again. It's been so long since I've done that.
Yes, so we are live this evening. Good evening, everybody. We're talking about RadioReference FAQs. So we're going to do those frequently asked questions about RadioReference. We're going to give you an overview of the internal database. We're going to take a look at the forums, and we're also going to take a look at some of the other places on RadioReference as well. So if you're new to the scanner hobby, welcome to the show. We're going to cover the website that has it all, literally.
Yeah, it does. If you've got a scanner, you want RadioReference.
Yes, and we're going to talk about all that tonight and so much more. For the first hour, we're going to talk about RadioReference and the frequent asked questions. And then 30 minutes after the first hour, we're going to answer your questions. So post them on the comments on the side, and we will answer those questions accordingly. So let's get into the slideshow presentation right now. As always, the Scanner Guys are brought to you by Scanner Master. And make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our social media as well, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Scanner Guys. And check out our website, thescannerguyshow.com is our official website. And while you're there, check out our blog, sign up for our newsletter, and shop our store, hats, t-shirts, coffee mugs, hoodies, tote bags. We got all types of stuff on our website. So definitely check that out. When you purchase any of these goods, it helps support the show. So definitely check out our store. There's something pretty much for everyone. And our hoodies are in. So fall's coming in, a little bit of winter chill maybe coming around the horizon. Get your hoodie and walk around in style with the Scanner Master logo on it. So RadioReference, we're going to cover the database first. So these are the frequently asked questions about RadioReference. So this is what RadioReference is all about. What is RadioReference? Well, it's a website that contains a lot of information. Yes. It's the database for the United States and Canada and the rest of the world. It has forums that members interact with one another, and it's all about the hobby. So even if you don't want to participate in the forums, you can view the forum and you can learn a lot more about what's going on in the hobby, even in your area. I mean, Rich, there's some sections of the forum, it's broken out by state, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are forums for just about every type of topic. The main forums are the ones that are set for the individual states. So we've got one for Arizona, North Carolina, and Illinois, and Michigan, and you know, even New York, which is still in California. California is still part of the U.S., right? Yes. So you got one for California, and those forums are, you know, if you have a topic that's specific to a specific state, you can read about it in that forum. And some of the larger metro areas even have separate forums for them. So Chicago, New York, Boston, LA, they'll have separate sub-forums for those areas because they are very busy and there's a lot of stuff going on. So they'll have specific forums for those regional areas. There's also a forum all about squids.
Yes, I'm sure Lindsay's getting that all set up on the website as well.
Yeah, we're working on that.
So there's also a place where you can have the encyclopedia of scanners and radios in the wiki, which is really cool. So that's a great portion of the website. There may be things that don't quite fit into the database, and it will find its home there, right, Rich?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the wiki that just doesn't have a place in the database. Things like codes. You want to find the 10 codes for Mayberry Police? That's where they would be, is in the wiki, because there's already enough place in the database for them. Things like beat maps or information other than frequencies and tones and talk groups would go in the wiki. And it really is extensive, and people really need to go into the wiki and and look at that. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Thought I was going to have to sneeze. The classified ads for radios, and those are great. To be able to sell some of your radios, or if you're looking for a particular radio, it's a good place to look. It's going to be a lot more targeted towards our hobby on Radio Reference versus going on eBay or something like that.
And that's one of the few things that you would have to pay for to participate in. So if you are a paid member at Radio, almost everything at Radio Reference is free. All the access to the database, the forums, and all that stuff can be done for free. But if you want to post a classified ad, you have to be a paid member or a premium member, as they call it.
And then the last portion, and this used to be all on RadioReference.com, and then for marketing purposes, they kind of broke it out and they made Broadcastify.com. That's where all the live scanner feeds are, and that's where a lot of the apps that are out there in the Google Play or Apple Store, where the feeds originate from, is from Broadcastify. And this allows you to be able to eavesdrop into different communities that you're not in listening range of, or even some railroads or aviation. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's on Broadcastify, so definitely check that out as well.
Yeah, when I moved from the Chicago area out to Phoenix, I kept up with what was going on in the Chicago area through a Broadcastify feed. It was great.
Yeah, so lots of great things, in between, the database, the forums, the wiki, the classifieds, and of course the online streams. So all there on Radio Reference. So let's can dive in and continue on with the slideshow presentation. So this is what the database page looks like. What you can see here on the left side. I'm going to go a little bit larger on this just so we can see. So what you're seeing here is a map of the United States, which is very clickable. You see that certain states are green and certain states are yellow and certain states are gray. The most recent changes in the database that have occurred within the last 24 hours or so are green. And then things that have, they will eventually turn yellow. And then, of course, if there hasn't been any updates in some time, they have that gray color. So when you land on this page, you know right away that looking at Texas, there's been an update on Texas. And then when you go into the Texas page, it's going to show a map of all the counties. And if you know Texas, there's a ton of counties.
256 of them.
So on that map, you're then going to see the green counties or yellow counties, and that's going to indicate that there's been some changes. So as you keep peeling back the onion on Radio Reference, you're figuring out which area has the updates. Now down below, real handy tool, you can do searches by frequency or even type of system. I mean, there's so much on this page. We're going to show you a little bit more on an upcoming slide, but this is definitely a great page to bookmark, on your computer. So you can go right here. If you're thinking, boy, I haven't been hearing, XYZ department, I wonder if there's been a change. And with technology changing so much, there's a lot going on. Somebody commented, Illinois is always green because there's always updates.
And that's partly due to, number one, there's an active community of scanists in Illinois. And number two, the database administrator that handles most of the Illinois stuff is pretty darn good at it. He's kind of funny looking, though, but it happens to be the commenter.
Yeah, so that is
just awesome. Giving you a hard time there, Terry. I've known him for a long time.
So, Terry, take a look at this here. You're very familiar with the setup of a conventional page. Now, the key things that we're used to is seeing the frequency, as we can see here, over here, the column for the frequency, the license, which is the call sign, which we don't hear too often anymore, and then the type, tone, alpha tag, display, mode, and tag. Let's go back over here. So everybody's familiar with the frequency. That's typically what you're going to program into the scanner. If it's an old easy scanner, bank driven, you just put it into program mode, type in 155.6475, and then away you go. And then you look at the type there, it indicates whether it's a repeater or base mobile. Base mobile will be kind of a line of sight type of communication where the base has got a tall tower and the units transmit, and it hits this tower. With the repeater, of course, it goes inputs into the repeater and then outputs in seconds. And that's, basically what you're looking there. You can kind of tell what type of communication. Now, the next thing we're going to program in, of course, is if you have the capability on your scanner. What is that, Rich?
So the capability is going to be whether or not your scanner is analog or digital. And if it's digital, does it have the proper digital mode needed for that particular type of communication?
You missed a spot.
The PL tones and the codes depend on the mode that it's being used.
Yes.
So if it's P25, you can program in a NAT code, but if it's analog, then you can program a PL code or a DPL code. So there's that. Now, when you hover over those where it says frequency or license or type on that, you're going to see those pop-up windows that we have represented on the screen here. So that's a direct copy and paste from those pop-ups. So if you don't know what RM means, you can hover your mouse over where it says type. As you can see where I'm pointing, right? You can hover over the word type, and then you'll see that little pop-up window up there that tells you that R means repeater and M means mobile. So now you've got a repeater and mobiles on that same frequency.
Yeah, I mean, this is the coolest thing. I mean, everything is right here at your fingertips. You basically have the frequency, the PL tone, and then the mode, which is very telling. So let's say if you were in Boxborough and you were looking to monitor the police, if you didn't have a P25 scanner, you're not going to hear them at all.
Yeah. Or all you're going to hear is.
And the other thing that we have here is the tag, and this pertains to a lot of the database scanners. If you go into any of the database scanners, you can turn these tags on and off. So let's say you didn't want to monitor any of the public works and you're using the zip code based scanning. You can go in there and turn off these tags and then turn off public works. Or if you're strictly a fire buff, you can turn off everything but the fire channels.
Right. And those are called service types on the unit and scanners. So you can go in and select the service types on your database type scanner.
Yeah, and this is what typically a conventional search will look like. It's just very basic. It's pretty simple, not a lot to it. Let's dive in a little bit deeper. So this is part of a trunk system, and these are the towers here. As you can see, each tower or site, I should say, has its name in this column here. And then over here, you can see what county it's in. So the good thing about RadioReference, when you've got those large trunk systems, as Illinois does, you can actually press on the county box right here, and it'll sort these in alphabetical order. Make it a lot easier to look for the towers or sites, I should say, in your county. And sometimes some of those counties have more than one site.
Yeah, especially if you're on a big statewide system, like Starcom or Viper or Palmetto or something like that. There might be 5 or 6 different sites in some of these counties, and if you're in that county, you're probably going to want to put all of those in there, so it makes them easier to find them.
All right, so we've got some color on the screen. We've got red and blue, and that is typically indicating your primary control channels and your alternate control channels.
So on a Motorola built P25 system, there is going to usually be one primary control channel, and that's going to be shown in red. And then there's going to be 1, 2, or 3 alternate control channels, which would be shown in blue. So on a Motorola built system, the only frequencies you need to have in your radio are those red and blue control channels. You can always tell a P25 trunking system that was built by a company other than Motorola, like Harris or others, because they'll often have all channels being control channels, so they'll all have to be in there. But if it's Motorola built, only a certain subset of the channels are going to be available as control channels, and those are the ones you have to have in your radio.
Very good. We're going to continue on and take a look at the next portion of it. So this is typically at the top of the trunking system here, the table that shows all the sites. And then if you scroll down, you're going to see all the talk groups. Now you can see here the talk groups are way over on the left side of this chart. And then of course, the most important thing here is the mode. This is going to be very telling. D means it's digital. So these talk groups are digital. If you saw an A here, it would mean that they're analog. And then we don't see this too often, but occasionally an M mixed analog and digital. And then of course a T, for any of you that have a phase 2 digital scanner, this is why you have a phase 2 digital scanner, because of TDMA. Right. So any of these trunk systems that show a T in the mode column, that means that you would need a phase 2 digital scanner. Now at the top of the page, it may say TDMA phase 2, but it could have a whole slew of these Ds in the mode column. Guess what that means? You can monitor it on a phase 1 scanner. So even though it's indicated at the top that it's TDMA phase 2, as long as you don't see any T's, you can still monitor it. But the problem, once they switch the T and you get a phase 1, then you're SOL.
Yeah. So with the T, that means that talk group is normally TDMA. It could revert to D phase 1 if there's a phase 1 radio involved in the conversation. But if it's T, chances are you're going to need a phase 2 capable scanner.
Now, the other thing that we can see in this mode column is the cursed E. And that means that if it's a capital E, that means it's encrypted full time. If it's a lowercase e, they're using partial encryption. Yep. So that's the thing, to keep in mind. If you see DE or TE or any combination that has the E, if it's a capital E, that means it's encrypted. If it's a lowercase e, they may occasionally use encryption.
Right. It could mean a couple things. With the lowercase e, it could mean that the base is encrypted and the mobiles aren't, or the other way around, or they can turn encryption on and off. It could be either one, and there's just no way to really tell until you start listening to it. But if it's a full an uppercase e, then it's full-time encryption, and you're not going to hear it. But they include the encrypted talk groups in their system, number one, to identify for people to know that, hey, you're not going to be able to hear it, but that's what they're using. And number two, the reason it's there is for people who are using, computer programs and such, so they can help identify the users of the system, even though you're not able to hear it.
Or even occasionally, they may turn off the encryption, and then you're able to hear it.
That would be nice.
But anyway, that's what it's looking like here. So this is under the trunking. So we'll keep moving along. So we wanted to dive a little bit more into trunking systems and understanding the sites. Now, a lot of times these sites affiliate with a certain site. These talk groups, affiliate with a certain site. As you can see here, whoops, I meant to take that off. Let me take it off again. So we have a site for Lakeville and Mayberry. As you can see here, that the Lakeville site is covering all the talk groups for Lakeville, but it also has the state police there. Mm-hmm. So it's talk group 8001. So on the Mayberry site, it looks like they have their own site for the city or town there, but there also has the state police 801. So that means that 8001 talk group affiliates with both sites, the Lakeville site and the Mayberry site.
Yeah, depending on the system, certain agencies might be restricted to a specific site, or they might be what they call free runners, which means they can affiliate with any site or a larger group of sites. It all depends on the system and the way the individual agency is set up. So on this wide area system that Lakeville and Mayberry uses, it could be that Lakeville only their police channels are only capable of being affiliated to the Lakeville site, so you would never hear them on the Mayberry site, even if a Lakeville officer went to Mayberry. or it could be set up so that a Lakeville unit can affiliate on any other site, and you could see it pop up on a neighboring site or a distant site if for some reason they were over in that area. It all depends on the system, but then you get an agency like the state police or a statewide agency, chances are they're going to be able to affiliate anywhere within the state.
Now, the other thing that you may see commonly with a lot of these talk groups is the numbering. Rich,
Mm-hmm.
can you, by looking at this, can you tell us something that this radio maintainer on this fake system used a numbering scheme, and it kind of makes sense if you really look at it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can figure that the first two digits identify the agency. So 11s are Lakeville Police and 21s are Lakeville Fire. So, and then Mayberry are the 10s and 20s for police and fire. So Mount Pilot could be 12. So, and then 01 is the police dispatch and 02 is the police secondary. So our Mount Pilot could very well be 1201 for police dispatch and 1202 for police secondary. It's common to use numbering series like that. It's not universal, but it is pretty common. So a lot of times you'll be able to figure out what a lot of these talk groups are just by playing the numbers game. And let's say talk group number 1103 popped up. It's a pretty good bet that that's probably some sort of Lakeville Police talk group.
Yeah, I mean, we see that a lot of times. So when you're running your scanner on a trunk system and you're running ID search, you may find some talk groups, and you may be able to figure out just by listening and view and just by the talk group number, you say, that seems like a talk around for Lakeville Police. It's the 1103. And then you've kind of so what you'll do at that point is listen in to it, and then you'll be able to tell, yep, this is the talk around channel for Lakeville Police. And then what you can do is we're going to show you how to how to submit this to RadioReference.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the other thing too is not all systems are as organized as this particular system would be. So you get some wide area systems like Starcom, like Terry mentioned in Illinois. The state police there have a very organized layout because they were the first users of the system. And then afterwards, agencies were just kind of put in wherever they could fit them. But they tend to group together. So if you have a talk group number 5017 and 5018 and 5019 are all identified as Mayberry Police, you get a talk group of 5020. Chances are it's probably also Mayberry, just hasn't been identified in the database yet.
Yeah, so a little bit of detective work goes a long way with a lot of these trunk systems. And this is, you're not going to find, like for conventional frequencies, a lot of times the frequencies in order like this.
Yeah. And it's like, again, some systems are set up like this. Typically the smaller ones are more practical to do that. The larger systems, they tend to get a little bit out of hand. They probably have really great ideas. Hey, we're going to do this, but then they realize that it ain't going to happen, and they just start, assigning them whatever numbers happen to be available.
Very random. All right, so we're going to dive into RadioReference frequent asked questions for database searches. So let's take a look at this. So this is remember we showed you the map of the United States. This is all the stuff just below it. So you can see here we can search identified frequencies in that top section right here. So you can type in a frequency that you may have found in North Carolina and then hit the search button. And then this will try to find that particular frequency. You can also do it by metro area. So let's say a metro area overlaps into a couple of different states. You could do that way. So be able to find that frequency. You can even search by type of trunk system. Let's say you're getting a control channel for a trunk system, and you're getting that noise that you're getting, and you want to figure out what control channel is that frequency associated with for a trunk system. You can do it right here. Now down below, Rich, speaking of trunking, you can do trunk searches here. You can do it by state. You can do it by type of system, talk group description, or ID, system ID. So this is really good if you're doing a lot of research.
So now you can get this information from your scanner. Most scanners will display the system ID when you lock in on a trunk control channel. It will also give you things like radio IDs, which we really haven't talked about here. But radio IDs can be used to determine talk group usage as well. But that's a whole nother hour-long show for that. But this trunking information, the trunking systems can get a little complicated. So this allows you to go through and start looking for stuff, and allows you to pinpoint what you might hear, and especially if you're in an area that you're not very familiar with. So, if you've lived in an area for a long time, you're very familiar with the systems, you can usually extrapolate what is going on that trunking system that you're familiar with. But if you're on a system you haven't heard, or maybe conditions have popped up and you're hearing stuff from very far and distant locations, this can be really helpful. And the other, and like Terry mentioned here, is that you don't have to pick a specific state. You can search the entire U.S. database, or the entire database anyway, and see all the users of a specific frequency. Or you can, if it's a really common frequency, you can put the frequency and the PL tone in, and then, it's like, say, select the entire country, so that you can, see all the users of that tone and frequency combination. Or you can select multiple individual states. So you can pick North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, if it's over in that area, you're just not quite sure where.
Yeah, and then of course we have the FCC database search, which you can search by call sign. You can search by frequency there. You can also search, the metro areas as well. The other thing that you can do, which I occasionally do, is I'm always looking for licenses. Mm-hmm. So I will do the search for FCC entries, and I'll put in North Carolina, and then I'll put in a particular town, and see if there's been any new licenses issued for that particular town. And that's a great thing to be able to do. And of course, you can do so much. And this is right at your fingertips, right on Radio Reference. The ability to be able to do this, to be able to figure out, who's what and who's where. You can do this all right through the Radio Reference database page. We'll continue on here. So submitting information to Radio Reference. This is something a lot of you do out there, and a lot of you may or may not be doing this properly. If you do it properly, it allows the Radio Reference database administrators to be able to do their job easily and quickly. Radio Reference receives tons of updates each and every day. A lot of times it may be something that's super relevant and gets right into the database. And there may be other things that just is not so relevant and gets rejected because it doesn't really have a place in the database. So don't take it personally if the information gets rejected. It just may not have a place in the database, or it may be already in there, or there may be some sort of reason for it being rejected. So don't take it personally. Radio Reference is getting tons and tons of updates each and every day.
Yeah, and the admins, the database admins, have very specific rules that they have to follow. And if they don't follow those rules and they start putting stuff in the database and it shouldn't be, they're going to be kicked off the team. So they want to stay, and they're going to follow the rules that are set down on the Radio Reference site.
All right, so looking here, you can see that we're on the North Carolina Railroads page. Each one of these pages is going to have these tabs going across, and one of those is going to be submit. And this is where you're going to be able to submit the information to this particular page. So if we click there, and then it would take us to this page here. So what you want to do is you want to put in your information here about the new frequencies or frequencies that you found, and you want to put in as much information as possible. You see that there's a table there. You want to be able to fill in all the blanks. If there's of course, a frequency, PL tone, a description of what the agency is and who it is, and include anything that may be relevant or helpful to the database administrator. So one, they know where it goes, and two, they know definitely that this is a Lakeville a secondary channel for the police or a secondary channel for the fire. So give them details so they know, okay, so this is a new channel based on the existing channels. Or if they, for whatever reason, they change the PL tone, specify that. Say, Lakeville, for whatever reason, changed PL tone such and such. This is now the new PL tone.
Right, and if there's a change in the existing data, give the admin a break and let them know what the change is. So you might put the frequency, the PL tone, the user on there, and then put it on the bottom. Say, by the way, it's the PL tone that has changed.
Here's an example of a submission. So, dear RadioReference.com, the following frequencies for the CSXH line are posted. Please update these when you get a chance. So you've got, the various channels. We basically showed that it's the CSXH line. We posted the frequencies. It is wide open squelch. We included, if it's a particular yard channel, a road channel, and then of course if they had a shop there and they're using NXDN. So of course, make sure you thank the person that's doing the work, and then sign it off. And this is pretty simple, pretty basic. You want to give them enough information that it's going to make sense to them. So they're going to look at the database and say, oh, these are new channels for the CSXH line. So we got a yard channel, we got a secondary road channel, and look, we've got a engine shop that's using communications. So good stuff right here. So that's definitely what your submissions should look like to Radio Reference. Broadcastify feeds. So this is really interesting. A lot of you, a lot of callers call and they, call ScannerMaster and say, hey, why can't I hear my city or town on Broadcastify? Well, the reason behind that is it's somebody just like you or I that's sharing their scanner feed with the rest of the world. So there's not feeds everywhere in the world or everywhere in the country. So if there's somebody not sharing their feed, that's why there's not a feed there. So with Radio Reference, you have the ability to, send your scanner audio to the world. Now, there's certain requirements and there's certain restrictions. There's things that you can't post. You can't stream, tactical channels, secondary channels, or, case-sensitive channels. Basically, the main dispatch channels for police and fire and what such. And then that's typically, to keep everybody safe out there. They don't want to be streaming a tactical channel where the criminal could be listening on an app to, every move that the police department's doing.
And there's specific reasons for that, of course, and they, like I say, they do want to keep things safe, and there's a delicate balance between officer safety and the public's right to know, and that's pretty much going to be the dividing line. Dispatch operations are fine to listen to on Broadcastify, but tactical and surveillance channels, railroad channels are probably some of the more popular non-public safety feeds, and people love to listen to the railroads. And so there's a lot of railroad scanner feeds throughout the whole U.S. and Canada.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a couple of states that don't have any, as you can see from this map.
Yeah,
our folks up in the Northeast, in Vermont, don't have a feed there. There's none in North Carolina. It looks like there's several states that still don't have any feeds, but the state's pretty green for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're in South Carolina, Mississippi, Arkansas, South Dakota, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Vermont, or Rhode Island, or Alaska, and you're near a railroad and you have a scanner, we'll show you how to do that in just a second. Think about putting one of the feeds up and start listening to some railroad channels in your area. There's not a lot of trains these days in Hawaii, so I don't think there's much need for it there. But if, like I said, if you're in one of those areas and you want to host a feed, I'm sure they'd love to hear it.
All right, so this is just as popular as that other scanner that we mention all the time when it comes to railroads. If
Yeah.
you're setting up a feed, let's say for railroads, we're going to use that as an example tonight. You want to get a good scanner that'll work or fit the job. In this case, the BCT15X will be the best job for that stream. It can pick up a good amount of railroad activity, great reception with clean audio. Is definitely the key things with setting up a feed. So picking up a good amount of railroad traffic, if you buy a yard or a junction and you get a lot of good traffic, that's definitely a good candidate for having a feed. Also, great reception, good clean audio. And the other requirement is having this extra scanner laying around. Like, take for instance, if you've got a 15 or a 15X, and a computer that's dedicated to the audio feed, like an older computer that will work fine.
Yeah, you don't need the latest, greatest, high-speed computer. An older computer will work just fine. You don't need to spend a lot of money on a computer.
So there's that. So we'll take a look at the BCT15X a little bit closer here. Now, this is many of the reasons why the BCT15X is a great railroad feed scanner. It's got a couple of great things. It's got that base mobile form factor. Works great with an outdoor antenna with that BNC connection in the back. We'll go across here. So the biggest thing that Rich and I agree on is the record jack.
Oh, yeah.
Why is this so important for a feed? And why should someone consider something like a 15X, or if it's a digital system, something like the 996P2?
So that record jack allows you to draw audio out of the scanner at a constant volume level, no matter where the volume control is on the scanner. So you can adjust the volume up or down on the scanner so that you can listen to the scanner locally without it affecting your feed output, because that record jack is at a constant level. And then what you do is you connect that to your computer and you use the computer's level control to set the level to an optimal level so that it sounds right on the feed. And then you just leave it at that. And that way, if you're in the office and you want to listen to what's going on in the railroads, you just turn the scanner up, and adjusting the volume control is not going to affect your feed volume. And that's ideal.
Now, the other thing that we point out in the back is the external speaker jack. So that would be where you would be adjusting the volume on the front of the radio. So you would connect up, an external speaker so you can hear it locally in your office. And of course,
right.
The power jack in the back is definitely going to power up the radio.
Yeah, and plugging a jack into the record jack to connect to your computer does not cut out the internal speaker of your scanner. Plugging a jack, something into the external speaker jack will cut out the internal speaker.
And then here's the things that you should know or should get if you were setting up a feed. You want to get a scanner that's going to work for the type of system you're monitoring, an outdoor antenna if possible. You definitely want to get a stereo male-to-male, so you'll be able to use that record jack in the rear of the radio. Windows computer. If possible, a wired internet connection, just so you have a stable connection versus using Wi-Fi. A programming cable, which is optional. And then, of course, the Butel ARC software based on whatever radio that you do have. Now, why the programming cable? The good thing about it is certain apps will allow you to feed alpha tags. So when your scanner stops on a radio transmission, it will send to the software text tags so they can see it on the app who's communicating at a given time. So that's a really cool thing. So you could also set it up for your Broadcastify feed that it includes alpha tags, and then you would
Right.
just use your programming cable in order to do that.
Now, the nice thing about using programming software, obviously, it makes it easy to program the scanner. But if you've got the pro version of the scanner, you can set it up for virtual control. And if you have the scanner at a remote location, you can access the computer connected to the scanner via some sort of remote access software, use the pro version of the software to reprogram the scanner remotely without having to go to the site. So when I moved out here to Arizona, I had a friend of mine have a scanner that I can listen to stuff in the Chicago area set up on a feed, and I just set up remote access and a copy of the ARC software, the Pro software, and do the virtual control, and I reprogrammed the scanner, and I could do it remotely without having to have him do it. And it was really simple, and it worked really well.
Yeah, so the great thing about this is, radios like the 15X, the 996s have, the similar rear where it has a record jack and external speaker. Now, if you're ended up having to use like an STS 200, you're not going to have the convenience of a record jack, unfortunately. So
Right.
the radio is officially going to be tied up for the feed. You're going to have to adjust the volume on the actual scanner. You don't want to crank it all the way up because it'll be overmodulated. So you're going to have to, when you set up something where you're using an external jack on the rear to feed up to Broadcastify, you're going to want to adjust the volume accordingly, so it's not overmodulated audio when you stream it out. So
Right.
it's definitely a thing that, radios that don't have the record jack, you're going to have to be extra careful adjusting the audio settings on the computer and also adjusting the volume settings on the scanner itself. And then once you find that sweet spot, don't move the volume.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck not being able to usually use it for local listening at the time. You're pretty much stuck with you only using it for feed, but chances are that's all you're going to use it for anyway.
The other thing, I don't remember, Dean asked, have we done a deep dive on the 15X?
Not on the 15X, but I think what we could do is we can do a deep dive on the 996 P2 and include the XT because they're very similar. I mean, the only difference between the two of them are obviously the analog and digital and the serial port connection on the front of the radio. So everything else is almost exactly the same.
All right, perfect. Whoops. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, got to go back a notch.
Yeah, I must hit the mouse.
There you
Okay,
go.
so there's software that you have to download to set up the feed for Broadcastify, and it's the ScannerCast for Broadcastify.com. This is kind of an overview of how you would set it up. So you would start by number one by selecting the scanner that you have. Such as, like a Uniden or a GRE/Whistler.
And those two settings work for most Uniden scanners, like the 396, 325, 996, and 15 series. And then on the GRE, it's most of the PSRs, most of the Radio Shack Pro 600 or Pro 197 and so forth, and 651s and such. And then if you don't have one of those type of scanners and it's just audio, you select that last option.
All right, so we're going to go down to number 4, and this is where you would put your username and password for Radio Reference. You would put that in there, and then you would click the login to Radio Reference to get configuration, and then you see number 6. This will be a pull down. So if you have multiple feeds, it would list them there. If you just have one feed, it's going to be listed, just whatever that feed is. Right. Now, keep in mind, you have to go through the application process of setting up a feed before you get to the step. So once you've been approved, you would download the software on your Windows-based computer, you would log into it, and then you would be able to see the feed that you're sending, which is number 6 on the screen. And then once that's done, then we would continue going down to number 3, and then you would select, whether it's the microphone or the input jack on your PC. So you have to pay attention where you're plugging in this audio cable into the computer. And then the next thing, we're going to go up to the top here at number 2, So if you are streaming your alpha tags to
Mm-hmm.
Radio Reference or Broadcastify, I should say, you're going to want to select your COM port and your speed, and then you're going to select what you're sending, whether it be just the channel, the group in the channel. If you're adding in the frequency to the tag as well, you'll decide what you want to send up. And of course, last but not least, number 7,
Right.
you're ready to go. So you start the broadcast, and then you're on the air.
It really is a very simple setup to do. And they have made it as easy as possible to get set up. It used to be in the old days when you had feeds, it was all custom software and custom settings and everything else like that. But with this the ScannerCast software, it's so easy that almost anybody can do it. Just follow the instructions and do those steps. But like Jonathan said earlier, make sure that you do the application process first, because until they approve your feed, you're not going to be able to take the additional steps.
All right, we're going to take a deeper dive into Radio Reference here. This is a current map of Radio Reference. As you can see here, different states on this map are currently have some changes. As you can see here, a whole bunch of states are either yellow or green. And of course, for whatever reason, nobody's really submitting anything for this part of the country where it's all gray. So if you're in Washington State or anywhere out there, definitely submit some information there. And as you can see here, this is the database. So you can see that I'm logged in here because of my username is up here. So I'm not going to get all the ads because I'm a subscriber. And the only ad I'm going to get, of course, is our sponsor, ScannerMaster, because they have a partnership with them at Radio Reference. So if we click on the forums, we can go to the forums home. And this is what it basically looks like. So you have, all the various forums here, pertaining to particular radios like Radio Shack or Uniden or Whistler or GRE. So if you've got a particular question about one of those particular radios, you can then post it there. Here's Pacific monitoring, such as, aircraft, railroads, and things like that. You can post comments, and a lot of people, you can meet a lot of fellow aviation enthusiasts or rail fans or weather enthusiasts right in these forums. And then, of course, there's a whole section for amateur radio. Look at all this right here, Rich, for amateur radio. Yep. And then one of my favorite spots, which we kind of hinted towards, is the U.S. regional radio discussion forum. So if you want to just take a look at what is doing in your neck of the woods, you can go to your state, and then, for right now, let me just go to North Carolina, and then you can see right here all the recent posts for North Carolina. So if you say, I'm interested in this North Carolina Forest Service TAC channel. So let me click on that and find out more. And then, of course, the state fair is coming up here. So you may be interested in that as well. So there's all types of good stuff here locally.
And so if you look at the very top of the forum list there, you're going to see a bunch of them with thumbtacks next to them. And those are pinned. So that means those will always stay at the top, even if there's no activity. So you can take a look at some of them. I mean, that one forum post is pinned, and it's dated, the last and only post on it is from June of 2012. That means that's a very important post, is it's pinned, and they want to keep it at the top. And some of those are going to be locked. So you take a look at that last one there, and it's got that lock icon. That means you can view it, but you can't respond to it because it's locked. You can always still view it. But if you see the pin, it's a sticky, as they call it. It sticks at the top of the post, or at the top of the list of posts, even if it's been a long time since anybody's posted to it.
Very good. So this is all good stuff to be able to look through here, and this is definitely worth becoming a member of Radio Reference to be able to
Yeah.
access all this. You can see there's all types, not only United States, we've got Canada. We also have international radio discussion forums. So if you're watching us overseas, you're able to do that. And then, of course, there's the tavern section. Anything that's kind of off topic from scanners, you can be able to post this stuff right here. So a lot of good stuff on the website. So definitely check that out. Let's, we mentioned earlier about the classified. So let me go back into the website and then we can go to the classify homepage. And as you can see here, there's people selling things, wanting trade, all types of good stuff here. So if you're looking for any type of radio stuff or you're looking to trade or do something, this is where you can do it right here. And you can sort by the various categories here. So a lot of good stuff here to be able, if you're looking for certain types of gear, you can definitely do it right here on the classifieds.
And if you are a premium member, which means basically you're either paying for it or you get a free premium membership because you're hosting a Broadcastify feed, then you can post your items for sale there. So if you've got a scanner that's gathering dust, or you're looking for a specific type of esoteric gear or something like that, you can post it. But you do have to be a premium member in order to post an ad.
All right, let me go back in here again so we can look a little bit more. So the wiki, we talked about this a little bit. We want to just show you this. This is the encyclopedia of scanners.
Yep.
So you can see, for newcomers, they have a whole section for you. Scanner 101, Scanner Q&A, the glossary, so many different things. There's also a section for help, popular topics, scanner articles. So if you want to know more about P25, you could click here and it'll go through everything P25, which is great. So if you're wondering, what is this TDMA business about, you can go here and you can read more about it, which is great. So you can kind of not only learn some of the history, but some of the radios that actually support it, support the various formats. I mean, this is such a great fountain of knowledge. So if you're if you're just entering the hobby, or you have a sense of being able to to learn more, this is where you do it right here. And this is a great section of the website.
Everything you wanted to know about scanners, but were afraid to ask, is there. So go back to the Radio Reference homepage for a second.
Sure.
All right. So what you can do is if you get a message or an alert, actually go to the Radio Reference homepage, not the database page. Just hit you're already there. So if on this page up at the very top, you would get the very top, scroll back up a little bit. You would right there where it passed your where it says Jonathan7, which is your username. Up in that box there is where you're going to see alerts. So if you have a message that was sent to you by another member, or there was a response to a thread that you're subscribed to, you would see a notification up at the top, and you would know to look at that. So when you reply to or you create a forum thread and somebody else replies to it, or if you click on the watch where you can watch a specific forum, you'll get that alert message at the top, and it'll just be a number that say you've got 7 alerts, just like Facebook or what is that, Instagram, one of those things. It does the same thing. You have a bunch of alerts, and you will get a notification that, hey, there's something that you might want to check out. And so when you see that, check that out and see if it's something that you want to look into.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I do have a message from somebody. I did see it on one of the screens. So I've added a whole bunch of watches here. So,
if you go to the forums page, I think you'll see that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go. I don't know what's in there, so I'm not going to go in there live. But I set up some watches here. So, for counties, for trunk systems, for railroads, and also some feeds. These are some feeds that are around in the area. And then, of course, down on this page, if you ever wonder what on the home page, you ever wonder what our next show topic is going to be? It's listed right here in the news and announcements. So each week you'll be able to see that. You're also able to see, our Train Aficionado live show topics as well on here. So we have that as well. And then we can see down here all the active threads on the forum down here. So the homepage is certainly a great place to visit. And then if you're a member, you can do all these watches. And if you're watching the Palmetto 800 system, you can see that they just did an update. What was it? Today?
Yeah.
Today. So you can see that there was an update just done there. So you could, pop in here. Let's do that right now. Let's see what actually occurred. And of course, we are live. So let's see if we can find.
Yeah. So if there was a change in one of the sites, then that whatever site was changed, that line will go yellow and or green. If you go back to the very top of the talk group list.
As soon as I find the green.
Well, that's why you can see an easy way to find it. If you go right back up to the top, it'll bring you right to it.
I just want to scroll. This is just having fun. And this a lot of times what I'll do is I'll look for the green, but we'll do it
you cheat a little bit. Yeah. So
okay, let's go back up. So we can see here that this is where you can.
Yeah.
Oops. So here, they updated for this county.
Right. And then if you go down a little bit further below the sites, and there you go, right there. If you hit on where it says Show New Talk Groups, you click on that. That'll bring you to the latest ones that were changed. And you see how those are
holy
green.
Crap. There's a lot of.
So, you see the green ones mean they were changed within the last 24 hours, and the yellow ones mean they've changed in the last week.
Yeah, so this is a lot of changes into the database, and as you can see, the Clemson University has got some channels listed here for the university police and fire and EMS. So a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah, so that's the easy way to get to the changes. Otherwise, like I say, on a small system, it's not hard to just kind of scroll through the whole system like you were doing before. But on a big system like Palmetto, where there's thousands and thousands of talk groups, that's the easier way to find the new stuff.
All right, so this is the trunk system.
And now, if you go to where it says last updated and then the date and time, if you click on that, and if you hover over that, it'll tell you the last 10 changes.
All right, let me just see what else we have here. So we've covered the homepage, the database, live audio feeds, which we did during the slideshow, the forums, the wiki, the classified, submitting information, which we've covered as well in the database in the slideshow presentation. And of course, about is just, about, the folks that run RadioReference. I mean, we can take a look at our team. We've had Lindsay on the show. Yep. He joined us, and, that was a great interview. So, and of course, we have, Bob Burns, which is in charge of the wiki forum, and then Gordon Edwards, which is the live audio manager, and Steve Jones, which is the discussion forums manager there. So a lot of these are the key people that keep RadioReference up and running.
Yeah, and those are the leadership team, but the people who do the majority of the work are their volunteer database and forum admins. And you and I are both database admins, as are several of our viewers tonight are database admins. And those are the people who actually work the submissions that the individual users will submit. And we get them in a list, and then we would review them, and we would then add that information to the database. Sometimes we'd have to edit it to make it fit the proper formatting and such. Sometimes we'll get stuff that just doesn't fit the requirements of the database, and then those would be rejected. Politely, of course. And sometimes it's just a mistake. A person hits the submit button when they actually meant to do something else. And, that kind of stuff happens. And, we'll take care of that. Forum admins do a very similar thing that that the database admins do, but they take care of and maintain the individual forums. So a forum admin will usually have a specific set of forums that he can take care of. And if a message gets put in there that really should have been in a different forum, or it shouldn't be there at all, or there starts to be a argument going on that's getting out of hand, the forum admins can put an end to that and either stop the discussion or even delete messages and such to keep decorum going in the forums. So one of our users here, he's trying to list his unication for sale. He can't because he's not a premium member. So you do have to be a premium member. It's $30 for a year or $15 for a 6-month membership to be a premium member. You don't need to. It's worth it. Number one, you don't see the ads, which is a huge thing these days because people hate seeing ads. And you can post forum messages. You can also do downloads for your county or your state. So you go to the database page and you'll be able to download things either into a CSV, or you can even download it to a PDF type format. So you can bring it with you if you're going to be someplace where you're not going to have internet access.
Very good, very good. We are going to dive into the Q&A portion of the broadcast momentarily, so stick around for the next 30 minutes. We're going to answer some of the audience's questions and maybe dive into a couple other different topics if they come up in conversation from your questions. If you've got a question for us, submit them into the comments, and we would love to see those questions and comments right now. What I'm going to do is just cover a little bit of business within our slideshow. So sit back and enjoy this brief update. Next week, we're going to be talking about YouTube. We're going to be live on YouTube with our multi-couplers, frequent asked questions about multi-couplers. So if you're watching us on your smart TV, congratulations. You wonder how they're doing that on their smart TV. If you've got Apple TV, Roku, or the Kindle, the Amazon Fire Stick.
Fire Stick, yep.
You can download the YouTube app and watch us on the big screen. Next week's broadcast, of course, we're going to be talking about multi-couplers, frequent asked questions about that. And we are going to be live Wednesday, October the 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, live right here on YouTube. So hopefully you join us for the broadcast next week, as we're going to be live once again Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, talking about multi-couplers. So if you're in the process of putting up a new antenna and you want to share it amongst a bunch of scanners, you're going to want to watch this broadcast, because we're going to tell you how to do it properly and what's needed in order to do that. Train Aficionado Live is going to be next week, Monday, October the 4th. 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific on Monday night. So that's the first Monday of the month is where we have Train Aficionado Live. You want to make sure you follow us on social media as well, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Train Aficionado, and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 8,000 subscribers on that channel. So definitely subscribe to Train Aficionado Live. It's a really fun, great conversation, and we have a slideshow presentation for that show as well. And Rich shows off a lot of his rail fanning adventures that he's done over the last several decades. So definitely check that out. Also, we want to remind you, if you are searching for accessories or a new scanner, consider ScannerMaster. They're the sponsor of our show. Since 1978, the nation's most experienced dealer of all brands of new police scanner software, accessories, and programming. Shop them online or call the scanner experts at 1-800-722-6637. That number again is 1-800-722-6637. Open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, shop them online all the time, 24/7 at ScannerMaster.com. Support at ScannerMaster.com if you're looking to ask a question or find out what the best scanner is, or a technical question. support@scannermaster.com. And then make sure you follow our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at ScannerMaster Co.
And there happens to be a lot of stuff in stock all of a sudden. So if you're looking for that SDS 100 or 200,
hit the affiliate link.
Do that and hit that button down below for the affiliate link so we get a little help on that. But they are in stock, and most scanners are actually in stock now all of a sudden. 996s are pretty much the exception to that rule, but we hope to get more of those in pretty soon.
Which is awesome. So now let's dive into your questions right now.
All righty. So we got a bunch of check-ins like our usual guys. In 1967, the Chicago Fire Department, and there is a story behind that, and we will let people wonder about that. So lots of good check-ins here. We do read each and every comment, even though we don't acknowledge every one of them on the show because we'd be here all night, and we don't like doing that. So John checks in. He's waiting for his tote bag and T-shirt and hat. So we appreciate everybody who buys our merch because again, it helps us out, and we use that to help bring in more shows. Let's see here, and lots of Chris's and Joe's and a couple of Rich Carlsons out there. And I am going to be making squid on the grill tonight. Might be a little messy, but that's going to be it. That's going to be dinner tonight. Maybe I should put that on pan instead of on the grill. We'll see about that. We are going to do squid merchandise next week. That'll be on their webpage. And let's see here. Todd brings up a really good point in the wiki. There's fire toneouts are in there as well. So if your fire department uses those two tones to alert their fire departments or the EMS departments, look in the wiki to see if those tones are listed in the wiki for your area. If they're not and you have the tones, submit them to the wiki. Remember, the wiki is user generated, and you write the wiki just like Wikipedia. The Radio Reference Wiki is you can actually go right in there and edit it. So if you've got information on there, put that information in the wiki and share the wealth. Rockford Scanner, back from my home area, just about 100 miles away from where I'm from originally. He's one of our regulars on Radio Reference and the Illinois forums for sure. Terry mentioned too, when we were looking at the database, there is a click box on the conventional frequencies that you can click so that you can see what the repeater input frequencies are. And if you know what those are and know how to use them to determine if they are really in your home, if you're in your neighborhood, you can view those. The reason I often put the repeater inputs into my scanner is if I hear activity on those, I know the guy is close. So if I hear input on the fire department input frequency, I go out and look out the window and see whose house is burning down in my neighborhood. And let's see here. So Ron and Terry got together, admins from Illinois and Michigan got together, and a couple weeks ago. And we talked about the line colors changes. Joe M. Reports that he had a talk group that was listed as full-time encryption go non-encrypted about a week or so ago, and then it went back to encrypted again. So that kind of stuff does happen from time to time. So all hope is not always lost when it comes to encryption. Sometimes they go back. And, you know, it's like getting free HBO, as one of our listeners put it. And let's see here. You can search multiple states. Yep, certainly can. We talked about that. Also, Ron mentions if you hear traffic on one of the Broadcastify feeds that is against the rules, a tactical or SWAT team and stuff like that, submit that information to the Broadcastify team so that they can get that taken care of. Sometimes assignments change, and they might accidentally, they might take a channel that was once used for dispatch and start using it for tactical operations, and so forth, or or maybe the feed host put that in by mistake. We'll get that taken care of so that we don't cause issues for our public safety personnel. And Dean asked if we can do a deep dive on the 15X. We talked about that a little bit. The 15X is basically the analog version of the 996. So if we do a deep dive on one, we can apply a lot of that to the others. If you click on the FCC license listed for the agencies, you can go in and find the actual tower locations, other frequencies that may be assigned on the license but not listed in the database. And there's a reason why some of those frequencies might not be in the database on Radio Reference. Every frequency that's in the Radio Reference database is supposed to have been confirmed as in use by somebody, either the admin or a submitter. So somebody has to confirm that that frequency is in use and what it's in use for. Otherwise, it's not allowed to be in the database. So there might be other frequencies licensed to that agency, but if it hasn't been confirmed as in use, it can't go in the database. So if you click on FCC license, you can see other frequencies that are licensed to that agency. Pop those frequencies into your scanner and see if somebody's using them. If so, submit those to the database so that the database can be updated. Dave is using radio feed with his 536 HP, and he's got the alpha tags checked, but he doesn't see it on his feed. So there could be a couple of things. Number one, I'm not 100% sure the 536 supports tags. If it does, make sure that the COM port settings are set properly, and make sure that the client that you're using to listen to your feed supports tags. So not all cell phone apps and will support feed tags. And if it does, and your feed is not sending out the tag, chances are it's a problem with your tag, with your feed. And like I said, I'm not 100% sure if the 536 supports it or not. I've only used 15s and 996s for feeds myself.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some latency issues as well with some of the apps. I've noticed when I was hosting the Northeast Corridor feed in Massachusetts. I sent up the alpha tags, and it was great, but it was a little slight latency. But if you knew the latency time, you knew that it would pop up in a second. But yeah, I mean, definitely, if you're able to do so, it's just a programming cable. It's real simple to hook it up and just have it hooked up all the time. And then, like Rich mentioned, if you're able to remote into that computer, having that programming cable connected up will allow you to be able to do some programming remotely, which is great. And you'll be able to do also, if you've got the pro version of the software, to be able to control that scanner virtually as well. Let's say there is a major incident going on, and you want to put the scanner on hold on a particular channel during that incident, you have the ability to do so. The other great thing, too, is even if the scanner is not remote, but let's say it's based out of your home, and you're at work and there's a major incident going on and you have the ability to remote into that computer, you could do the same exact thing as well. So, be able to control that scanner or put it on hold. And then, of course, when the incident's over with, you can put it back into scan. The other thing that you can do, which we didn't cover on the Broadcastify portion of it, is if you do have an incident going on, and it's taking place on your feed, you're able to set up a feed alert. Let's say there is like a shooting or something that's going on. You can post, that there's an active shooter in such and such area, and then you'll be able to have it show up in the alerts portion. Keep in mind, the other thing too is if you want to have the best ability to be able to listen to these feeds, Broadcastify has its own app for Android and Apple OS. So download their app. I mean, it's going to be probably the most reliable and most current. So that's the Broadcastify app. Definitely check that out as well.
Yeah, and they're with that 996 and the 15 scanners, they are a lot less expensive than the other digital scanners for the most part. So they are very useful for that, and for those several reasons. And there was something else I was going to say about that, and it just right out of my head. So, and all right. So if you, and then Terry mentions if you're a feed provider, you get the free premium membership. So as long as your feed continues to be active, so you don't have to pay that $30 per year to have that premium membership and no ads and the ability to do printouts and post things in the classified. You can do that. So if you're a free member, you still have access to everything. You just can't post the ads in the classified, and you're going to see the ads on the screen. So Chris has got some issues with a database submission, and we've been talking about this, Chris and I, for a while. The database guy is aware of those issues, and there are some reasons why that has not been changed in the database. So shoot me an email, Chris, and I'll remind you about that. So Wayne submitted a correction for a tourist railroad in Delaware, and they found an improper listing in the database. Sometimes these submissions are done the same day. Sometimes they may take a week or two, because remember, these guys are volunteers. They don't get paid to do these database updates, so they do it on as time is available. This morning I checked my submission list, and there was a submission for me to work, and it had been submitted 3 minutes before I happened to go in and check for submissions. So I worked it right away. So that submission got worked within 5 or 10 minutes of the guy submitting it to the database. But that's more the exception than the rule. Usually it takes a day or two to do that. So James Brox has got an issue. He's hearing weather operations on his 436 while scanning his local weather channels. So it's a good bet that he's probably very close to the weather transmitter. And those things transmit at high power levels. It could be 100 watts or up to 500 watts on those weather channels. And it's not that uncommon to get them to have those weather stations do spill over into the railroad frequency band or the marine channel band, because they're relatively close. So there's two things you can do. Number one, you can try going to a different location, or you can try turning on the attenuator on your radio to see if that will take care of the issue. There's another option on some of the unit and scanners, and that's called the IF exchange, and it's IFX. And if you turn that feature on that particular channel, what it does is it changes some of the technical parameters in the scanner on how it generates the frequency for that channel. And sometimes that will help eliminate intermod or adjacent channel interference or nearby channel interference. Try it and see if that works. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then you're going to have to try something else. Carlos asks, how do you know what tower to put in when you're programming? That's a great question, Carlos. So on a trunking system, especially a wide area trunking system, there might be multiple towers. There might be 3 or 4 towers just in your county, or there might be one in the neighboring one. What you're going to have to do is take a look at the geography of your area and the geography of the towers. So if you go full screen on the system frequencies there, you'll see that there is the Cabarrus simulcast system in the Cabarrus County. If you're in Cabarrus County, that's the tower that you're going to want to program. But if you're in the Gaston County, or let's say you're in Smith County, and there's no towers in Smith County, but you're right next to the one in you're right next to Stanley County, then chances are the stuff that you're going to be listening to is going to come off the Stanley simulcast. So look at the tower locations, compare them to where you are, and the tower or towers that you are likely to be able to hear are the ones that you should put in your radio. Yet individuals can edit the wiki, so you just need to have a username and password. With Radio Reference, you set up your username and password, and that part of it is all free. And then that allows you to do things like edit the wiki or submit to the forums and submit to the database and all the rest of that stuff. And then from there, you can upgrade your existing free membership to a premium membership. And let's say you upgrade your premium membership for 6 months, and then you realize that, okay, I don't need any of that stuff. You let your premium membership expire, your same username and password is retained, and you use that for your now free membership. So yeah, you're going to see ads. You're going to not be able to submit to the database or submit ads to the classifieds, but you can still participate in the forums and edit the wiki, etc. And let's see here. All right, so Joe and Toxic are going to have to communicate with each other if they want to arrange something like that. And let's see here. You can edit the wiki. So Ron was doing a chase in Saginaw, Michigan. He was listening to a chase in multiple counties.
He was in the chase.
Yeah. Yeah. When you see that helicopter up above you and he keeps on following you as you're turning around, chances are they're chasing you. So apparently he was listening to that on his SDS, which worked really well in the local simulcast system there. So, yeah, a lot of that stuff is really fun to listen to. And just don't get yourself involved in it. Listen to it from your home, but stay home and listen to it from there. Don't go there. That's never a good thing.
The only time that, it's happened on a few occasions where you were able to listen to the chase, and I've had it go by the house. So you can do it safely from your picture window in your living room and watch it go by as you see it.
Yep.
But yes, don't get involved and don't go out there.
I was deep in the heart of Texas once, and I heard a chase coming down I-40, which is what I was on, and they were about 10 miles behind me. And I'm like, and they're going, 130 miles an hour down the interstate in Texas at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, this is not good. So there was a rest area up there. So I pulled into the rest area and pulled into a spot where I could see the highway from where I was in the car. And I watched that go by about 3 minutes later. And it was just like, vroom, 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 vroom. It was like, that was cool to see that. And I'm listening to it on the radio. And I wasn't anywhere near the action, which is a great place to be when something like that's going on. Let's see here. And Toxic is asking James if he's hearing that full time or is it mixed with a trunking or a pager transmitter and such. So, yeah, that's it. Those are great points there. If you're hearing that weather station over the railroad channel all the time when you're tuned to that channel, it's probably some sort of intermod or what we call an IF hit, because the way the radio works, it's basically math. And if a frequency is a certain distance away from what you have tuned, you can sometimes hear it almost as good as if you were actually tuned to that frequency. And that's where that IFX button comes in handy. If that doesn't fix it, then you've got some other issues to deal with. Let's see here. There's some issues about the database. Les, if you have, it was like watching NASCAR. And if you have issues with the database, the best thing to do is to make a submission. If you know specifically that there's an incorrect issue with the database, be it in Canada or the U.S., make that submission. Yeah, you can. Terry says you can broadcast user ID, radio ID numbers over your scanner feed, so you can see the individual radio numbers that are being transmitted. See here. William likes that larger image of you. So the one you have on now is kind of small. So yeah, he likes to be able to see us. I
You
don't know,
mean
we're
this
pretty
one?
darn ugly. Yeah, I don't know. We're pretty darn ugly. I don't know why you'd want to see us that up close and
Yeah, we're
personal.
pretty centered, which is a good
Yeah.
thing about it. A lot of times we're doing one of these, but yeah, we're pretty centered in the shot. I mean, I've been messing around with the shots this evening just to see what
Yeah.
we can and cannot do, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I don't know. You don't want to see us too up close and personal. At least me. I have a face that's made perfectly good for radio. Let's see here. We talked about the Broadcastify calls platform. I haven't used that much. Have you?
what is it?
The calls platform?
I've seen it.
Yeah. So
It's,
if you go to a database page and you see a link on the talk group number or the frequency, you can click on that and go back and review the calls and either listen to the live audio on that or review the calls that were on that particular channel or talk group. And which is a great thing. So if you see something in there and you want to listen to it, that will automatically bring you to the Broadcastify feed that particular channel is being hosted on. So if that feed exists.
yeah, Lindsay was when he was on the show, he was teasing about big things coming to Radio Reference, and that was one
Yeah.
of the big things for Broadcastify and Radio Reference that came up.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So that's a pretty cool thing, and that's going to be a work in progress. So there may still be changes on that in the future. So there was a question earlier about the 536. Apparently, it does support alpha tag. So thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. Like I said, I've only used the 15 and the 996 series for the feeds that I've hosted over the years. So apparently there's going to be some changes in the Greater Toronto area. The old FleetNet system is going to be shut down next year, and the Ontario Provincial Police will be fully encrypted. Oh, that's unfortunate. I used to listen to the OPP on 42 megs back in the day on low band. They were always fun to listen to. 4206, if I recall correctly. Let's see. Apparently that chase is still going on up in Saginaw. So now they're in a third county. So if you're up in the Saginaw area, listen for the chase. And if you hear sirens, duck. Let's see here. There was some sort of an ad for Tacoma Fire. Apparently they had some siren in the background. So a guy kept on pulling over, because he heard heard that. Let's see here. NASCAR. That's like racing, right? NASCAR.
Yeah, racing, NASCAR racing.
No.
It's kind of like you're kind of like the same thing for your football fan.
Yeah. I get football for rednecks. Yeah. No, I do know what NASCAR. I don't know a lot about pop culture, but I do know what NASCAR. I've been to a couple of NASCAR races. I'm not a big race fan, but I've got some friends that are, and they've dragged me to races. And
They dragged you.
They dragged me. Yeah, kicking and screaming. I actually had a pretty good time. The one I liked best with the old Rockford Speedway, they have a figure 8 race, and it is great because they always crash in the middle. And there's a YouTube video. You're a camper guy, where they did a camper race on the figure 8. So there's all these cars and trucks carrying camper trailers going through there, and it was last man running wins. So that's always fun. Dean has got a BC 125 AT, and he gets all the front row seats to all that, and listen to the CHP, which still uses low band, which one of the last agencies that used low band. So we can't go a show without talking about the 125 AT. And no, it has not been discontinued.
That's for sure. It hasn't been discontinued.
Yep. And that calls platform is still a work in progress. So Ron noticed that there's some repeated audio on that, and sometimes it doesn't work properly. But they're still working on that. It's still new. So give them some time to get that taken care of. Dan asks what you and I listen to most on our scanners.
Go ahead, Rich. I'll let you start.
Well, my 90% of what I listen to is railroads and aviation.
For me, it's definitely railroads, and then it's police and fire. And I used to listen more to police and fire when it wasn't regional dispatching. I've living in a county where it's regional dispatching, which
Yeah.
kind of drives me nuts because I don't get the local angle because it's all mixed together.
Yeah.
Hopefully, at some point I'll be somewhere where I'll have local dispatching again and be able to follow the story from start to finish. That's the great thing. When I was in Massachusetts, each police department, each fire department, for the most part, had their own channel. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other great thing about that too is with Massachusetts, if you're listening to Lakeville, Massachusetts, Lakeville Police, and Lakeville Fire. So you would hear, if there was a car accident, you would hear the police being dispatched to it. And then you would sometimes, because the town was so small, you would then hear that same dispatcher hop over to the other channel dispatching the fire department. And then you would get both angles of it, the police rolling on scene and then the fire rolling on scene. But yeah, I mean, I do miss that localized, but unfortunately, as many of you know, good luck, Chuck, tomorrow. I see that you have a procedure tomorrow in Rhode Island.
Yep.
Good luck with that. We'll hope to see you next week on the show. Just saw your comment there. Um, regional dispatching, I mean, you've experienced this, Rich, in the department you worked at. It's all about saving the old dollar.
Yeah, absolutely. What they do is what they can do with a lot less personnel by having everybody on the same dispatch center than having individual dispatch places. I mean, in the Boston area, you've got 150 small towns, and every town has got their own dispatch center, and they'll do the dispatch for the police and fire, and everybody's got their own channels. In the Chicago area, due to state law, there is now almost everybody is done by some sort of a regional dispatch center, unless you're a bigger community. So all these little small towns that once had their own dispatch centers and often their own frequencies are now part of these big conglomerates. So you lose that personal touch. Now, and if you want to listen to Mayberry, you have to listen to everybody around Mayberry as well at the same time. So it's, obviously there's reasons behind it, but for scanner users, it can be, it changes bad,
Entertainment purposes, you usually hear, like I remember, in Lakeville, a guy, it usually would be a couple people. It was like 3 or 4 people that you would hear dispatching.
Yeah.
And you eventually know their names, and then they would have personalities, and you kind of, it's like literally like watching your favorite television show, your cast of characters.
Yeah.
And you lose that cast of characters when it's not the regulars on the show. It's a lot of people being jumped around all over the place. The funny thing, the railroads are dispatched out of one facility.
Right.
Like take for instance, Norfolk Southern for me is dispatched out of Atlanta, Georgia. And then CSX is dispatched out of Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
Now, the funniest thing that I found in my travels is I've gotten used to the dispatchers around here, usually working the desk for this line here. And I've traveled somewhere else. And I'm like, hey, I recognize that voice. And I'm like, hundreds of miles away from home. And I'm like, I've heard that voice before. So he must be working, this line as well.
Yeah. Sometimes they might have multiple territories that they work. So back in the day, they would have individual dispatchers working, individual sections of track in different offices. And then as they would start consolidating those into one railroad-wide dispatch center. I've actually been in the UP's facility in Omaha. It's in a bunker. Well, at the time it was in this big bunker, underground bunker right outside of the Union Station in Omaha. And it was as extensive and as technologically advanced as any 911 center I'd ever been in. And I've been in a lot of those as well. And it was amazing to be able to go down there and see all the track occupancy screens and such. You know, you had a dozen dispatchers, and each dispatcher had a specific territory that he was in charge of. And sometimes it was a wide area. I mean, there was one guy that handled pretty much all of Wyoming. And that's he's got several hundred miles worth of track, but he's got a lot of responsibilities and a lot of, trains that he's got to keep track of. Obviously, it's all done by computer these days. So, and I think we're pretty much all caught up. Dale says there's the state agencies up in his area went from 3 regional dispatch centers to 1 statewide dispatch center. I know here in Arizona, they have, I think they're down to 3 as well, Tucson, Phoenix, and Flagstaff, and they may be consolidating those into a single one statewide. And they were talking about doing that in Illinois, but there's been a lot of pushback on that, but they have started to consolidate some of the ones in Illinois as well. So you're going to see a lot of that. The advantage is that you can do more with less people, but you lose that personal touch. So that one dispatcher that might have been familiar with that specific area now has to learn a whole wider area. So he's going to lose all the little nuances that he knew, and there's no way he's going to be able to retain all that detail. So
yeah, I mean, that's totally true. When you have a local dispatcher handling a local town, you know, they can do reference points. That used, if we're in Rhode Island, that's used to be where the Dunkin' Donuts was, or where it used to be the Almac supermarket. They can give that reference, and then the officer knows, I know where that is. Because they could be dispatched to one of these obscure places in town, which they have to think, where the heck is that? And then the dispatcher says, hey, that's right where blah, blah, blah is. And they'll be like, oh, okay, yep.
Yep, that institutional knowledge is now gone because he's now got to cover a much larger area. So, oh well. So I think we're down to the end of it. Looks like they bailed out the chase, our chase in Michigan. They bailed out in Genesee County, and they got him. So good. It's successful. Hopefully nobody got hurt.
Live updates.
Live updates on the Scanner Guys.
So let's, I guess we'll wrap up this evening. We want to remind you guys of next week's show. We're going to be talking about multi-couplers. So if you're setting up a base station or, like your office with a couple of scanners and you get a really good antenna outside, definitely watch our multi-coupler show. We're going to go over those next week in great detail. So we'll take a deep dive on that. If you've got a Roku or Apple TV or the Amazon Fire Stick, download the YouTube app. You can watch us live on the big screen. Of course, you can always watch us on YouTube on your tablet, smartphone, or computer. Next week's broadcast will be Wednesday, October the 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, where we'll be talking about multi-couplers. So definitely check that out. Also, Train Aficionado Live will be on next week as well, so you get a twofer. So you'll be able to watch us on Train Aficionado Live, which is Monday, October the 4th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll be live on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button there as well. And then make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And check out Train Aficionado on the website as well. And follow, like, and subscribe to the Scanner Guys social media. Hit the subscribe button if you're watching us right now on YouTube. And then follow, like, and subscribe to us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at the Scanner Guys. Check out our website as well. If you want to buy one of these T-shirts, coffee mugs, hats, our hoodie, our tote bag, all that to help benefit the Scanner Guys, you can do that through our website, thescannerguyshow.com. And as always, the Scanner Guys are brought to you by Scanner Master. So good stuff there. Matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll show you our website. In case you haven't been to our website, let's show you the website. Hold on one second. I'm just going to load it up on this screen. The Scanner Guys Show. And let's take a look here. So here's our website right here. You can see all the popular radios here, you know, from the STSs to the Whistlers, and of course, you know, what website would not have the 125 AT? You can check out our store by clicking here. And of course, you can see all of our swag here. There's our t-shirts, our hats, a coffee mug, our hoodies, our tote bags. We have these in various colors other than the mug is white with green. But all the other items on the website do have different colors. So you can select your color and size. And this will certainly help us out, you know, with bringing more live broadcasts to you. We hope to have some road trips coming up. And then, of course, you know, a lot of this goes to, you know, our website hosting and streaming and equipment upgrades and what have you. So anytime that you make a purchase, we take a bit of that proceeds, and that helps us to keep the lights on here in the studio. So definitely help us out by doing that. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter. We don't send it out too often. We're probably due for sending out a newsletter. So all we ask of you is your email address, first and last name, and then hit subscribe. You can do that right through our website. If you want to learn a little bit more about Rich and I, you can hit the About button. You can see these really cool black and white photos of us, and then learn a little bit more about us and how the Scanner Guys were established. So definitely check out the website. And then if for whatever reason you can't work YouTube, you know, you're like, oh my word, it's such a pain in the butt, bookmark thescannerguyshow.com. And guess what? You hit the show button, it brings you right to our YouTube channel. And as you can see, our live broadcast is right here, an upcoming stream, which is our multi-coupler broadcast, which is right here. So you can get ready right here on our YouTube channel. So this is our YouTube channel and our website. So
there you go.
We thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm Jonathan Higgins.
And I'm Rich Carlson.
And remember, things are coming back in stock on Scanner Master's website. Hit the affiliate link below, and that'll also help us as well. So we appreciate you watching tonight. Have a great night. We'll catch you again next week.